everybody. Welcome back to our Rapiers and Ruffles season here on Wild Wild Podcast. My name is Adrian Smith and I'm joined as ever by my, what's the word when you're on a ship? If I'm the captain, what does that make you?
I'm the fellow swabbing the deck?
Yeah. If I could be Captain Hook and you can be Smee.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm willing to do that. Okay.
Whatever that is. Anyway, here is the next person to take command of Wild Wild Podcast should I get bumped off mysteriously. It's Rod Barnett.
Hello, everyone.
These introductions are getting better.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're smooth as silk.
Yeah. As smooth as the oceans themselves. Of this movie. We're all about pirates today. I'm very excited.
I am too.
To talk about pirates. But as ever, we I don't know if there's anything. Is there anything we can talk about? That's oh yes, since our last episode, another commentary of ours has finally been announced, which is Imprint are putting out a box set of Dead of Night and Flesh and Fantasy.
Ah, yes.
Which is a nice pairing, I think.
Yes, two excellent classic anthology films, one American, one British. Very good films, both.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a double billing of Twilight Zones, I guess.
Yeah. What is it like? I think there's roughly 5 stories in Dead of Night and 3 stories in Flesh and Fantasy. So you're really getting your money's worth.
And we have a commentary. We did a commentary for Flesh and Fantasy, which is, I think that's the oldest film now that I've done a commentary for. Pretty exciting to be doing a Universal horror.
Yes. It is definitely the oldest film that I've been able to do a commentary for, and just an exceptional film. The opportunity to talk about Edward G. Robinson was a dream come true.
Yeah, and now on the track we talk about because you mentioned there are 3 stories.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's because there's a whole thing where they ended up taking a story out and turning it into another movie.
Yes.
Which was called, it's gone out of my head.
Oh, it's called it was released
Destiny.
as a film called Destiny, yeah.
Destiny. And I was really hoping they might put that on there as a bonus feature, but sadly not. But so the people watching that one will just have to listen to us describing Destiny in our commentary track. But yeah, so that's exciting. We did that one about a year ago, I think.
Was it that long ago?
Well, it feels like it. It was a while ago. So very excited to. It's a slight change in direction from the more kind of cult stuff to something a bit more classy. So yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway, that's out from Imprint in Australia. February? No, this is February. When is it? April. Comes out in April. There you go.
Cool, good.
Yeah, very, very cool. Rod, anything you want to mention that you've either got coming out on the podcast or coming out on a label anywhere soon?
The latest episode of The Bloody Pit is out, which is Troy Gwynn and I talking about a Universal horror film. Well, is it a horror film or is it a melodrama? It's a film called The Climax, which was Boris Karloff's first color feature.
Oh, yeah.
And we talk about it at length, including moaning a good bit about how it's not a great film in our opinion, but at least one worth seeing at least one time in your life.
Is that the first one in color in your season?
In that run of films from Universal, no. The first one that we covered that was actually in color was the 1943 remake of Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, yes, of course.
Which The Climax was originally supposed to be a sequel to, but it's just more along the lines of in the vein of, with a lot of the same sets and definitely the same art direction. The folks who did the art direction for those films, for both the 43 Phantom of the Opera and The Climax, are to be lauded. Their work is exquisite. The film looks amazing. And they actually did win an Oscar for the 1943 Phantom of the Opera. It's a sumptuous looking film. It's the script contents thereof that we take issue with.
Okay, cool. And is that episode that's coming out or is out?
Oh, it's already out. Yes.
Good. And then, of course, probably other projects that you can't mention.
Not at the moment. A number of commentary tracks on the boil, and I'm trying to scramble to figure out what podcast will be recorded next, and it's more of a too many balls in the air situation than anything else.
This might be our last episode for a little while because you and I have got 3 commentaries kind of queuing up that we've got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, well, one of them next week, the other one not long after that, and then the other one probably not long after that. You've got another one that you've just had come in. So anyway, we're in commentary season.
Yes.
And I'm very grateful, but it does mean that we may end up not recording an episode of this for a little while, but we'll see.
And for that, we apologize. But at least the episode we're doing currently, the one you're listening to, is for a film that I think we'll both be able to heartily recommend.
Oh yeah, this is already my favourite one so far.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, not to give too much away, but yeah,
it's a heck of a movie, I've got to say.
Well, let's get into it. So we are talking today about a film called La Tigre dei Sette Mari, or The Tiger of the Seven Seas. Actually, forget the. There's no the in the English version. It's just Tiger of the Seven Seas. Now, one thing I would say with the title of the film is that the tiger of the title is dead in the first act. And then later on, the next commander of the ship is, I think somebody does refer to her as a tigress. So shouldn't the film have been called The Tigress of the Seven Seas?
Or maybe Daughter of the Tiger of the Seven Seas? Because that's what she is. I mean...
Yeah.
The character named Tiger, she's yeah.
Yeah, but I think somebody does call her a tigress. But anyway, here we are. Yeah, Tiger of the Seven Seas, not a sequel to the film Queen of the Pirates, I think it's called.
Yeah, there's some back and forth on that. It's not really a sequel because, I mean, our lead actress who's in both films doesn't play the same character at all.
No, but they do use the same artwork in one of the posters. It's like identical. Mm-hmm. They've just lifted it. And apparently there is some footage from the first film used again in this one as a bit of a cost-cutting exercise. I think some of the stuff of the ships.
You're kidding. I'm clutching my pearls.
I know. It's because those ships they've got 2 lovely pirate ships, and they must have used those in lots of movies because they would have been expensive. They obviously weren't just for this film.
No, and they are gorgeous, and I do wonder how much it costs to use those things. As far as the music is concerned, I'm a big fan as well. Carlo Rustichelli's music for this is fantastic, and I have the suspicion that it may have been used in other films as well. I mean, it's pretty. I have a bad ear for attempting to recognize where music was used in one place versus another, but it's so good. Nevertheless. As you were saying. If
you've seen one pirate film and you know what the music is like in that, it'll sound a bit like this.
and one would wonder if there are a lot of producers that felt the same way.
But the composer, Carlo Rustichelli, on the IMDb has nearly 300 credits. Mm-hmm. And some of that will be just the same bits of music being reused. But they did also do, like in the 80s, they did Ator, one of the Ator films, Throne of Fire, all kinds of fun stuff, but just tons and tons and tons and tons. One of the White Fang movies, in fact, both the White Fang movies in the 70s, the Fulci ones.
Yeah, in situations like that, I suspect they're reusing the score for the sequel.
Themes, yeah. Just loads. Just one of those composers who was clearly just never slept. Kill Baby Kill. That's quite a notable one.
Oh, he did a
Libido.
Resticelli's scores are all over the place. A lot of history of spotting his name in credits.
Yeah, but not as well known as somebody like Morricone, but clearly just as busy. So yeah, the score for this film is really, really appropriate. It really does the job. It's very good. So, so we've got this is a pirate movie, and we should explain that last episode we were going to do a Zorro movie.
Oh,
do you want to talk about that? Zorro the Avenger, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had queued up a movie called Zorro the Avenger, and I was very excited. Watched the movie, really enjoyed it, and then you suddenly realized that there were no Italians involved. It's a Spanish-French co-production. And I quickly scrambled through and realized, oh God, he's right. So Adrian, you scuttled my attempt to sneak a Spanish-French Zorro film into the mix.
I believe it was scripted by Jess Franco as well.
Yes. I had so many things to talk about, and now no one will ever know.
Well, I mean, couldn't you drag it into the Nashi cast at some point?
I could also drag it into the Bloody Pit.
Well, yeah.
But I think that having my heart broken by you may have soured me on the film.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will happily come over to the Bloody Pit and we could do it there.
You know what? That might be a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that. But I think we've got at least another Zorro movie that is Italian on the list. So fear not, Zorro fans. Zorro will return. So instead, we jumped to a pirate movie. I don't think they're using rapiers.
They are in some scenes. There's sabers and there's sabers and rapiers in this one. So.
But it still counts. And we are nowhere near Italy, although they're clearly shooting it in an Italian castle. But basically, this is about pirates fighting the Spanish somewhere in the Pacific Island, or Caribbean islands or something.
Yeah, it's definitely the Caribbeans, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's great fun. So the director of this one is Luigi Capuano. Again, another name that I was previously unfamiliar with.
Oh, come on now. We just saw one of his movies.
Oh, the Red, of course. Yeah, the Red Mask.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I remember when we did that one, I didn't know who he was either.
Well, you need to learn. We've seen two of his films. He did Terror of the Red Mask.
Yeah. I've seen two of his films, but he's a director who we don't know much about.
No, but I look at his list of credits, and it's clear that I could just spend a couple of weeks, if not a month, just enjoying and luxuriating in his 60s output alone.
Yeah. And I think we're going to come back to him again, because he was very wedded to this genre. Several Zorro films
Zorro and the Three Musketeers, The Executioner of Venice. I said last time we talked about him, he did a couple of sequels to the Sandokan films that were started by Umberto Lenzi. So,
yeah. Now, the big draw, I think, there's a couple of big names in this film, but the name that most people will know is Gianna Maria Canale, who plays the tigress Consuelo. Would you say most people will know her from I Vampiri?
Probably, or her many appearances in various peplum, because boy did she do a lot of them. I mean, she's in the original Hercules, so start there if you'd like.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, she had an amazing career. She did about 50 films in 20 years, and she married Ricardo Freda and was in several films of his over the years. Yep. They had quite a tempestuous marriage. I was reading about it in Roberto Curti's book, the biography he did of Ricardo Freda. I was going to read a little bit for you, but I just got to put my reading glasses on because I'm old now.
None of us are getting any younger, Adrian. Don't worry.
I have to change glasses to read anything. She was born in Calabria, and she'd won the local Miss Calabria contest, and then ended up coming second in the Miss Italy beauty contest in 1947, and Gina Lollobrigida came third.
Wow.
What a year that must have been. he met her coming out of a glove shop in Rome, and then he followed her, found out where she lived, then rang her house and asked her if she wanted to make movies. So
and to make other things as well.
Yeah, eventually she realised that he was a real film director. But yeah, he cast her in quite a few films. I think the first one was Il Cavaliere Misterioso, all the way up to I Vampiri, which was the last one. But he just says it in this bit here. Oh, he was 18 years older than her, and they were together for about 10 years. So I think they split up after I Vampiri. It says here, ironically, because he cast her in this film about Casanova. Ironically, a film about the seducer par excellence proved to be a love trap for his director. And then he quotes Ricardo Freda, "To me, it was the great love. To her, I don't think so." And then it says, "For better or worse, the love affair with Gianna Maria Canali marked deeply his life and career over the next decade." Because they went off together to Brazil and made a couple of films in Brazil after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't think she liked Brazil, and they came back to Italy. But yeah, she was just... I think by the time we see her in this film, she's actually only a couple of years off retiring.
Yeah, I know, which is a real shame.
I'd like to watch some of her earlier films, like The Black Eagle and Spartacus and Theodora and stuff like that. There's quite a lot of films that she was in that I've never seen.
We should stress, by the way, the Spartacus film you're mentioning is from 1953, not the 1962 film. So
yeah. So yeah, loads of cool stuff. Like you said, Hercules, and then a whole load more peplums.
Oh, lots and lots of them. That's where I remember her from. Is my goodness.
One of my favourites that I've mentioned a few times, Goliath and the Vampires.
Also, The Slave, also known as Son of Samson, which was released on Blu-ray about 2 years ago, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And then she retired.
Yeah. Last film is The Avenger of Venus. The Avenger of Venice. Why did I say Venus?
I'd watch that, though.
I would watch that, especially if she were in it, so yes.
She's got such charisma and such sort of personality. Every time she's not in the film, you're just looking forward to her coming back.
Mm-hmm. She's a ball of energy in this too. I mean, it's not just her colorful hair in this one. It's that she's good at projecting. The camera loves her. I mean, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I also found it quite sort of refreshing, I guess, maybe, that the hero and the love interest in this film are both kind of approaching middle age. I mean, she's not a young spring chicken. She's not playing it. She's not playing it like she is. I mean, she's clearly about 40, and the love of her life, played by Anthony Steele, who was also about 40, but I read in one review that he looked about 70.
I do not think that's true.
A bit harsh, but that neither of them are the kind of young, fresh-faced romantic leads that you might expect. They've got experience. They've seen the world. They've lived a lot of life, and it kind of makes more sense then, because then when this kind of betrayal and things all go wrong, it has more weight because of the clear history that there is between the two characters. So I think their relationship works really well.
And I have to say, I don't know much about about Anthony Steele's career. I've seen a number of the movies that he's been in. I've seen him in.
Yeah.
I've even seen him in some episodes of some British television, like The Protectors. But it becomes he's one of those guys who he was in a Winnetou film in '64. He's one of those guys who had a blip of a career in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Is kind of famous for having, basically for being married to Anita Ekberg.
Yeah,
his career didn't take off, so he essentially did what a lot of actors did. You've heard the story before. Let's try our hand in Europe, and he had a little bit more of a heyday there than in the States. But he's a British actor. He's a Brit, which.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% sure of until I checked. But
Yeah, the film I knew him best from is The Wooden Horse, which is something that used to be on TV all the time.
Really?
So I've seen that movie several times when I was growing up, because it's such a sort of famous story about prisoner of war escaping and everything like that. So yeah, that's a great film. But you mentioned their relationship with Anita Ekberg, and it was quite tumultuous by all accounts. And she claimed at one point that he'd hit her when he was drunk. It was all a bit up and down, and he had an affair with somebody else, another actress, I think possibly just before the marriage. I don't know. He had a bit of a chaotic life, and then when he died, it was only in 2001, and he was basically quite kind of broke. He'd made his last films in the 70s, which are terrible films. Let's Get Laid and Hardcore, the Fiona Richmond film, is like really awful British sex films of the late 70s, which is quite sad. It's quite a come down when you've had the career that he had.
Wow, that is kind of wild. I mean, he had at least a small role in the Monster Club in 1981, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But he then just kind of withdrew in his old age. They tried to get he was friends with John Mills, who tried to get him to go into the kind of old people's home for actors, and eventually he did, and he died. So yeah, it's very sad. But anyway, let's not dwell on that, because the trouble with most of the films we look at, nearly all of them have died.
So let's not obsess over the fact that the entire cast of Flesh and Fantasy is dead. No.
Yeah. Let's not worry too much about that. Yes, but in this film, so he does get to be, like you said, after his career was kind of on the slide, because he did loads of war films in the 50s, because he was in the war himself. He was on the beaches in Dunkirk. He was one of the evacuees. So he had war experience, and then he made loads of war films in the 50s. And then, like you said, married Anita Ekberg, went to Hollywood. He was in the Rank Charm School at one point with, while Christopher Lee was in there and stuff. But then, went off to Hollywood, but then came to Italy and made this film. And if you did nothing else, I think that's still something to be proud of, because it's such a good film.
Did you recognize anybody else in the cast? Because there is one standout face that is almost impossible to not recognize, I would say.
Oh, who? There was a couple, but I'm not sure. Who is it for you?
John Kitzmiller.
Oh, yeah, he was really familiar. He plays the mute servant guy.
Mm-hmm. He was Quarrel in Dr. No.
Oh, he's from Dr. No, of course. Yeah, he did look familiar, but I couldn't place it.
Now, he's one of those actors who was in a number of films in the 50s and 60s, and so I occasionally run across him, and every time it's Quarrel, look. So no difference here in that it's once again, I know what his voice sounds like, and I'm shocked that they cast him as a mute. But hey, the joys here are of realizing that this guy had a pretty lengthy career, did a number of films starting in the late 40s. I hate to say it, but once again, not to get too depressing, but he did pass away in 1965 from some kind of liver disease. So his career, which, I mean, he was only born in 1913. So he was, still could have been making movies up until the 80s, for God's sake, and unfortunately passed away.
Yeah, and so he's kind of her best friend and servant, and just everything, and ultimately, gives his life, which is probably a big, not really a surprise to anyone. But the other character we should probably mention is Tiger himself, the captain, the pirate captain.
Yeah.
The Tiger of the Seven Seas. Carlo Ninci, great Italian actor, did an absolute shed load of films.
Oh, I know, well over 100. It's amazing.
Yeah. Some classics like Two Women, but then also the more kind of popular stuff like this. Lots of telly.
He's another one who was in that 1953 version of Spartacus as well. So
yeah, and he makes quite an impression. He's quite a bombastic captain who's not afraid to sword fight with his crew to prove that he's still the best and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He's a really fun character.
Even though it's clear as the character is written as the actor himself, he's obviously past his prime, but still more than willing to take people to task and to do physical things in such a way as to prove his worth to remain captain of his ship. So there's a lot of verve and energy in this guy, and it's good to take a look at this guy and realize, he played Pepe Le Moco in the 1949 version of that particular story. This is a guy who had a long career.
Yeah,
and that energy and that screen presence. There's a real history of that. I think that once again, this is another actor who you could have a lot of fun going through his filmography, just to watch the films that he was a part of over the course of his career. There's a lot of good stuff there, and he's very good in the film as well. For this story to advance, he has to take a premature exit. So
yeah, sadly. There's a couple of other characters we need to mention. So for the plot summary. So there's a Spanish governor and his wife, Governor de Cordoba, who's hilarious. This film, one of the things I like about this film is it's really funny. So the governor, played by Ernesto Calindri, and then his wife, who's the brains of the operation, Anna, played by Maria Grazia Spina. And again, both of them long careers. I don't really know anything about them other than they were just very busy working actors. But she in particular is it's funny because they're kind of the bad guys, but they're also just quite nice people in themselves, and you don't want anything bad to happen to them.
Well, she seems to have more spikiness to her character than he does, but yeah.
And the ending of the film is quite, I don't know if we want to give it away, but the ending, which involves her, is quite interesting and did not go the way I assumed it was going to go.
True, very true. I mean, the film does lead you into a certain area and then makes you realize that that's not where it's going.
But it's great fun. I've got a plot summary. I managed to find some reviews this time. It looks like this film had quite good distribution both in the US and the UK. I definitely found UK reviews. And I saw, I found an ad. I didn't find a review, but I found an ad in Variety. So this film was picked up by Joseph E. Levine and was distributed as part of a package called Adventure 26. And it was basically 26 new adventures in entertainment, each one in sensational colour. And then he's got a list of action stars, and there's some great artwork, which is kind of pieced together from various different posters. Jack Palance, Anita Ekberg, Robert Morley, John Drew Barrymore, Jill Howarth, Gordon Scott, Lex Barker, and many others. And then some of the titles mentioned are The Mongols, Helen of Troy, The Trojan War, Tiger of the Seven Seas, Triumph of Robin Hood, Devil of Paris, Lion of St. Mark, Joseph and His Brethren, and many more.
Some good films in there.
I know, that's the Adventure 26 package that it's basically he just picked up a load of films that don't really fit together other than, you can say they're all adventure films, I suppose, but because the poster on this ad, you've got people with swords, you've got slaves, you've got Goliath, and then you've got a helicopter. So...
Well, that's how Samson and Machiste get around is a helicopter. So
it doesn't quite work. So clearly it did get some distribution. And Joseph E. Levine, of course, made all his money with the Hercules and Hercules Unchained double bill that he picked up back in the late 50s and made an absolute shed load of money. So it's perhaps no wonder that he was still doing this kind of stuff a few years later. But so anyway, I've got some reviews, and so I was going to use the plot summary because it's quite good from the Monthly Film Bulletin.
Cool.
Okay, so after announcing his retirement, Tiger, the pirate captain of the Santa Maria, promises the succession to the winner of a duel. His daughter Consuela watches her lover William beat Robert, the old man's aide, then insists on fighting William herself. So we should say here that there's a kind of there's a rule of succession, but it has to be the son of the pirate who inherits the ship. Is that right?
That is essentially the way things are laid out. And of course, unfortunately, Tiger does not have a son, only a daughter. Yeah. So they're going to have to do it by right of combat. And this is not set well with the daughter who wants command of the ship.
Yeah, because we already know she's handy. We've seen her throw a dagger.
With daring accuracy.
Yeah.
That near the head of the man that you love is pretty... you got to be pretty confident.
Yep. So she's really annoyed. So then they fight, but then she beats William, and he is quite humiliated because everyone's watching. Mm-hmm. And he kind of runs off, but she loves him. But then when her father is later murdered, William is accused and condemned. And so the pirates have a kind of court, and there don't seem to be any kind of lawyers involved.
No, it's just, what do you... It's more of a question of, what does everybody think? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now, here's a quick question, and I only bring this up because this appears to be something that was kind of read into this film at the time and afterwards. So, okay, Consuelo is able to best her beloved, someone that she intends to marry, William, in a pretty well done sword battle, where you can only occasionally spot the man who's doubling for her in some of the stunts.
I don't know what you mean.
The wig didn't give it away, but she essentially does. She bests her beloved, who is played by Anthony Steele, who is at this point in time best known for essentially having been, well, to use a particular word, emasculated by being referred to as Mr. Ekberg, because of his marriage to Anita Ekberg and the dissolution of the relationship. He had just, at the point they were making this film, he had just permanently settled in Italy. And so this was essentially one way to look at how the film might have been kind of slyly or maybe even cruelly commenting on Anthony Steele in that, as what's happening to his character and the emasculation of that character on screen, kind of mirroring the way in which a lot of people were sneering about his own private life.
Yeah, that's a good point. He certainly looks like he's had a bit of a rough time. He's already going grey here, which they don't try and cover up, which is interesting. And there's no attempt to try and make him look younger, which again adds to because he's on the ship all the time with Tiger. She's back at home on the island, longing to see him. So when they do see each other, it seems like this has been going on for several years at least.
Right. And I mean, it is easy, noting the way the film is written and who the main character is, that this is a bit of a feminist story to begin with. It centers a woman who's very much the equal of the pirates around her and who is accepted once she beats William, that she is accepted as the leader of this group of pirates. So there's this is far from the first time this kind of thing had been done. I mean, Hollywood had done this back in the late 40s, early 50s with a few pretty darn entertaining films, including some with Errol Flynn in them. But at the same time, it's one of those things where this was far from the norm at the time. But I always wondered why there weren't more like this, because this feeling that adventure movies need to center a man, and it's like, well, there are going to be men in them doing manly things in manly ways. Why not center a beautiful woman that the men are also supposedly going to want to look at doing some of these things as well? It's bizarre, but this film certainly takes the bull by the horns, and it would not be out of place to look upon this as a feminist film in a lot of ways.
I guess it's a good contrast with the Terror of the Red Mask, where...
And I was going to bring that up as well, considering...
Yeah.
Things we don't want to necessarily discuss about the outcome of that
That's
film.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a bit of the plot summary wrong here.
Sure.
It isn't... William doesn't fight Tiger. Tiger's announced he's going to retire. And so two of his crew fight each other. And so one of them is this guy, Robert. And William beats Robert. And then Consuela beats William. And so Robert... is one of the judges who says, yeah, it was William, he needs to be killed. And the rope is around his neck, and they are waiting for Consuelo to give the word for him to be hung. Hung or hanged? Hanged? I don't know.
I think it depends on the way the sentence is constructed, but yeah, either one will work.
When suddenly the Spanish attack, and so he manages to escape because he's got like his little Robin, whatever his name is. He's Batman, and he's got a young guy, Robin, who's there to help him, and they cut them down, and they escape in the Santa Maria, which infuriates Consuela because William, the murderer, has run off with her ship. Meanwhile, the vain and ineffectual governor, who is hilarious, de Cordoba, is congratulating himself on routing the pirates. But what we learn is his wife, Anna, because there's also, I didn't mention, it's not in this summary here, there's a whole thing about hidden treasure. Of course there is. This is a pirate film.
And this would be the hidden treasure of Tiger, the main character's father. The reason he's wanting to retire in the first place is not just because he's gotten older, but because he essentially feels like he's saved up enough money now. He's stashed enough cash to be able to retire very comfortably.
Yeah, with all his stolen Spanish gold. And Anna is, she's a bit of a social climber. She wants to get more power and be more in with the Spanish king. And the way to do that is to get more gold. So she wants this gold for herself. So Robert, it turns out, the pirate, he's secretly working with her. And it was him that killed Tiger and framed William.
It might be a good idea to actually talk just a moment about that particular actor, because I've seen him in a lot of films as well. And with his very high forehead or receding hairline, however nice you're wanting to be, he kind of sticks out. His name was Andrea Aureli. Taking a stab at his name there, and I'm hoping I get it right. But having seen him in a lot of movies in the 60s and 70s, including Don't Torture a Duckling and Stunt Squad, all the way up to The Other Hell, the 1981 Bruno Mattei film. Yes, I have seen that movie for my sins. But also just in a ton of movies, including Johnny Oro, the Revolt of the Barbarians, Hercules and the Black Pirates, Gladiator of Rome, Fire Monsters Against the Son of Hercules, a zillion of these kind of movies. Of course, also the Biggie Duel of Champions. That's a longtime favorite for Peplum fans. But he is one of those guys who, once you've seen his face, if he's prominent enough, you're gonna recognize him. And like I say, not just because of his face, but because of that high forehead, shall we say?
Yeah, no, he's been in loads and loads of films. I was just looking through his list and was quite intrigued by Blue Paradise, which is I don't know that one. It's the Adam and Eve, the first love story from 1983, which stars Mark Gregory from Bronx Warriors as Adam.
Oh my!
And it's an exploitation film about Adam and Eve battling prehistoric creatures after they've been kicked out of the Garden of Eden. I can't believe I've never heard of this film before.
I have never heard of this either. I must see it.
We could do a whole season on this podcast just based on films that we've spotted in people's filmographies that we then want to watch.
Yes, I know, and it's embarrassing in that respect, but also it puts a big smile on my face with the knowledge that there's just, no matter how much I've seen, there's so much more to see.
Apparently, this one also has part of the same soundtrack as You're the Hunter from the Future. So,
hey, well, at least I know I'll enjoy the score, right?
Anyway, getting distracted.
Yes, sorry,
yes,
I derailed us hideously. I apologize.
Andrea Aureli, yeah, he plays Robert, and he's the bad guy. So he's kind of a spy working with her. So she wants to capture William because William apparently knows where the treasure is buried because Tiger shared some of the secret. I'm not entirely sure. It's like someone knows half, someone knows another half.
Well, yeah, she's pretty convinced that even though he's the because it's even confirmed by her belief that he killed her father, that he knows where the treasure would be. So,
and meanwhile, Consuelo is determined to avenge her father. She still believes William did it, although she kind of, I think deep down, she knows he didn't. But she comes up with a great trick to steal a Spanish ship and become her own. She basically just becomes the pirate captain of a new ship.
Oh, that sequence where they capture that ship, that's some great stuff.
Yeah, it's very good. Really clever stuff. And then she eventually finds William. She finds the Santa Maria and meets William, and he claims, he tells her that he's innocent and that he knows who the real culprit is. And I don't want to give too much away, but I will say that they end up back at the castle of the governor's palace, and there's a masked ball. So once again, we have the excuse to have a dancing scene. But this time, I will say it seems much more period appropriate. They haven't just brought in some dancing girls from the Hercules movie next door.
Oh, and it also is a dancing sequence that advances the story very effectively.
Yeah. So there's this really fun masked ball, and the governor is walking around with a mask on, like, oh, nobody knows who I am. And but if they've seen him before, he's got this very particular beard, and he's just wearing a little mask over his eyes, and he's all, oh yes, I'm going to go and talk to the women.
Well, not only that, but the way he speaks is extraordinarily identifiable. So
yeah. And his wife gives him permission to basically go and chat up girls in his mask because, they'll never know who I am. Ho, 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 ho. So, of course, the girl that he wants to go and talk to is Consuelo, who is also wearing a mask.
And not a big surprise that he'd want to talk to her, considering that flaming hair and yeah.
Because meanwhile, William has been captured and tortured to get the location of the treasure. Consuelo and her band of pirates are coming to the rescue. The governor is just like this hilariously inept, sleazy, funny guy who's just who thinks that showing this beautiful woman the dungeons is going to impress her.
Yeah. He's she does lead him in that direction, to be honest.
Yeah. But I don't want to say too much more because this is a film that's actually fairly easy to go and watch. And if anyone is playing along at home, I really recommend this one.
Yeah, you should be able to find this, a good English dub of this. And if you can, please find the widescreen version of it. This was shot very wide, 235 at the very minimum. And it's a beautiful looking film. And I even in the degraded way in which we are able to view it now, where we know the source material is anything but pristine, but it still looks really nice.
Because the version I started watching is the one on YouTube, which is a VHS copy from the 80s.
And it lops off the left and right horribly.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's not even scanned. It's just
dead center. It's panned. Yeah.
But one thing that's really funny is the first kind of 10 minutes on the track, because whoever uploaded this to YouTube just put the whole tape on. Because it says it's 2 hours long, and I was thinking, really? But it's actually just because they've left the whole tape on there.
Oh, yeah, that was irritating.
Yeah, but there's a big trailer at the beginning. This was obviously released as part of a series of basically films about dangerous and adventurous women. So there's this really long trailer with loads of other random films starring women, including some Joan Collins in there, maybe The Bitch, I think was one of them. It was obviously just a whole series of films about kick-ass women.
Wicked women for murder, mayhem, massacre, mischief, and manslaughter. Tiger of the Seven Seas, she commanded a crew of vicious pirates with her beauty and her sword. Tiger of the Seven Seas.
Oh, there's a man in my room.
But I was very glad to find the widescreen version because it was disappointing to see how much is cropped on the YouTube one. So, yeah, it looks like it had a French release at some point on DVD, which is long out of print now. So if you can find a copy of that anywhere, it's well worth it.
Yeah, one warning about the version, the widescreen version with the English dub. There is one scene, one snippet of a scene that for some reason is not in English and is only in French, and
Yes.
it's when the governor is captured by the pirates and surrenders.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a little odd. You'd think that'd be
Yeah.
that'd be a scene where it would get. It would definitely be something you wouldn't snip out of the film. Just but nevertheless,
But it's literally just one sentence, isn't it? So,
I know it's very strange.
Yeah, must have just never been. That bit must have been trimmed for the English version.
Mm.
But yeah, this is great. I really loved it, and the reviews are mixed. I would say the reviews that I've got, but I was looking at the context and just on some of the same pages that these reviews are printed on.
Mm-hmm.
The reviewers have also already had to sit through things like Tarzan's 3 challenges, Flipper and the Pirates, Beach Party.
Well, I mean, there's something we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that, and this is going to be true all the time. The contemporary reviews for any of these films is going to be weighted down by the fact that all of these movies were coming out at the same time. These were, year after year, this was what was being put into theaters constantly. So, no matter what, the people at the time were, at a point rolling their eyes, going, "Ah, oh, yes, another one of these stinking things." And so there's a joy that we may get casting our eyes back decades and being able to sample these movies as we wish. That allows us to see them, I think, with a clearer vision rather than having them all tumbled down on top of us at once. So
yeah, because they say, again, in this monthly film bulletin review, they call it a sequel to Queen of the Pirates.
Which it ain't.
Which it isn't. They say that Anthony Steele is hollowed and phlegmatic and seems very under the weather as the barely tolerated hero.
Okay.
Bit harsh.
More than a bit harsh, yeah.
But I suppose they're thinking back to what he was making in Britain just a few years before this, I suppose.
Or when he was, playing a role in Master of Ballantrae in 53, maybe. So
it says Poggi is who was what was his name? Ottavio Poggi was the producer. And it says Poggi is not the liveliest of Italian producers, and this is a dull, mechanical affair. The colour is washy, the direction uninspired, the comedy relief tiring, and the busy, massed action scenes disorganised. But, as so often, it is the ludicrous dubbing which deals the coup de grace.
Is it just me, or is the only comedy really in it the governor?
Yeah. And it's not tiring, it is funny.
I mean, this is one of the few instances where I will stand up for, the comedy within the film, because it's all one character, all one, one...
Yeah.
It's of a type of this kind of thing, and it's very much very much amusing. Yeah,
very negative review, but the Kinney Weekly review is more positive. Kinney Weekly was a kind of industry publication that was mainly read by people in the film industry rather than Monthly Film Bulletin, which is aimed at everybody. But this one's quite positive. It says the story of a woman pirate coupled with romance doubtless gives this film a decided woman's angle, usually absent from those dealing largely with killings, endless duels and full-scale battles, to say nothing of a spot of torture here and there. The whole of the action reveals little in the way of novelty, but it should satisfy those for whom it is expressly intended. Anthony Steele uses his sword to very good purpose, and he has a worthy rival in this respect in the attractive Gianna Maria Canali. the colour and the dubbing are quite good. So there you go. It's almost a different film in that review.
I agree. It's very. I mean, that's almost a yin and yang look at the film. Yeah.
But at least it was. At least they were reviewing it. I mean, it shows it did come out, and the fact that people, even the Monthly Film Bulletin, they remembered Queen of the Pirates, which was about at least a year or two before.
Oh,
this
it was. I think wasn't Queen of the Pirates like 1960.
Yeah, I didn't check when it was released in the UK, but this was in 1960, end of 1963.
Yeah, Queen of the Pirates was. It came out in Italy in 1960. I don't know when it came to Britain. So yeah.
Yeah, this is one of my favourites so far. Definitely, it's really fun, and she is great, and it's nice to see her in a different kind of role from Vampiri as well. If that's the film that most, like me, the film that I was more familiar with, because where she's the main villain. So it's nice to see her being a hero.
It's a lovely, fun adventure film. It's a blast.
So yeah, seek it out. Actually, mentioning Vampiri reminded me, there's a new book out by Roberto Curti, published by Electric Dream House. I'm waving a copy around here by the microphone.
Oh, yeah,
on their Midnight Movie Monograph series.
Very good series of books, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a new monograph on Vampiri. I've just started reading it. I got it a couple of days ago. I will be reviewing it for Cinema Retro. And yeah, so far it's really good. So nice to see it, because also that film obviously just got a restoration as well. It's out on Blu-ray from Radiance.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas previously it was only available as a bonus feature on the Black Sunday Blu-ray. So Vampiri getting a bit more recognition. Perhaps one day, Rod, they will also re-release Mario Bava's, what was that one called? The Day the Sky Exploded. That was it.
Oh, okay.
So maybe if Vampiri gets a bit more attention, maybe somebody will think, oh, what other early Bava films could we dig out? So anyway, there's lots of films that we've covered on this podcast that will probably never properly see the light of day again. But
probably
you never know. You never know. But this is, I definitely think somebody should do a pirate box set or something. The films like this deserve some restoration and some attention because it's so fun.
Yes, I agree. Which is why I keep hoping that doing a season of shows on these films will hopefully wish something like that into existence. Yeah.
Well, hey, if anyone's listening who has their own Blu-ray company, forget funding ours.
Because Lord knows we would blow it.
Release it yourselves, somebody, please. Yeah, there's got to be a market. I mean, it's kind of similar because around this same time, Hammer were also doing pirate films, but their pirate films were way lower budget and lower production values than this one.
Yeah, and seemed to almost always have the pirates on land.
Yeah, they couldn't. They only did one film where they could afford their own ship, and then it sank. And it was only it was moored in a lake. It wasn't even on the sea. And then it tipped over and they blew it up. So yeah. But those Hammer pirate films, everyone loves those because they're Hammer. Yeah. But these are proper swashbuckling adventure films with real ships out on the sea, castles, everything.
Lots of sword fights and coolness. Yep. Yeah.
Really good fun. So there you go. That's our recommendation. Go and find it. You've got time until we're back with the next episode. You definitely have time to watch this movie.
Please seek it out. We'll give you time to catch up.
Yeah. And maybe next episode, Rod, we will do a Zorro film. We'll find the Italian Zorro.
That sounds fine.
And then in the meantime, we'll plan to talk about the Spanish Zorro on one of your many other podcasts.
Even if I have to invent a whole other podcast for it, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we need.
Something else taking our time. You need
something else to do, yeah.
Oh,
there are times when I think, hey, that's a good idea for a podcast. Oh, why don't I do a podcast like this? I have to basically slap myself.
Drag yourself back to reality.
Yeah, come on. Anyway, it's fun. I'm enjoying this. So we will be back sometime soonish with a Zorro movie. In the meantime, we've got quite a long back catalogue that you could go back and listen to if you're really desperate. But I would suggest tuning into the Bloody Pit, where there is always a new episode dropping or just dropped or about to drop or whatever the phrase is.
Oh,
There's always
speak it into being, man. I don't have anything in the hopper, so I'm not sure what's going to happen next.
Okay. But again, long back catalogues to catch up on, so there's always something. But yeah, this is great, and other people think this film is good too. There are actually some reviews on the IMDb and also on Letterboxd where somebody describes her as an ass-kicking pirate queen. So it's not just us that thinks it's good.
True. And just before we go, I would just like to say thank you to everyone who is listening to the show. We do seem to be making some ripples out there, and that's always fun. It's nice to have people enjoying the show and giving voice to that. So Thank you all who are diligently listening to what we're doing here, even if you don't think that what we're doing currently is exactly your cup of tea. The fact that you're willing to listen and give us an hour or so of your time to drop bits of information and try to urge you into enjoying the kinds of weird things that we're enjoying at the same time. Thank you for being a part of the audience for this show.
Yes, absolutely. I second that. Thanks for everybody, and do keep listening and get in touch. Let us know what you think if you've managed to watch any of these films. Or if you have any other favourite Rapiers and Ruffles type movies.
Oh, yes, definitely, please. We can be influenced, trust me.
Yes. Yeah, let us know. And you can get in touch with us in all the usual ways. Email, Instagram. We are on Twitter, but to be honest, I'm barely using Twitter at all now.
Yeah, so, Twitter's a cesspool. I tend to stay away from it.
Not really using that anymore. But so Instagram or email. And you can find our link tree in the show notes, and get in touch with us through there as well.
And I have to say, Adrian, you've sold me on the link tree. Having now gotten a look at that link tree you're mentioning, that's good. That's good. That's a good landing page for the show. That's great.
It's quite cool, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like it. And speaking of which, you'll find the link on there to our merch store, which I have to confess I have not added any more merch since the last time we spoke, but I've got some ideas. Cool. And if you want to buy a t-shirt, there is currently a sale again. I think there's always a sale over there, but there is some kind of sale going on if you want to pick one up at a discounted price. So go ahead. I think we still get the same amount of kickback, whether it's the discount or the full price, so you may as well wait for the discount. Makes no difference to us. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening, for getting involved, for contacting us, and being fans of Italian films like we are.
Thank you all for listening again.
And on that note, I think we'll stop talking now. So we'll be back soon with more adventures and swords and big frilly clothes. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.